Business Connections Live, the UK's leading online business channel. Business Connections Live, the UK's leading online business channel. Business Connections Live, the UK's leading online business channel. This is Business Connections Live with Steve Hyland.
Hello there and welcome to Business Connections Live, the program for entrepreneurs, SMEs and business owners. Now on today's show we're going to be discussing how to improve your business through greater interpersonal communications. We're going to be looking at ways in which personal presentation skills can sometimes be absolutely nerve-shattering, but they are necessary evils when it comes to actually getting your message across when you're in business. It's all going remarkably well today. My guest of today's show is Paul Ryan, presentation skills trainer and personal impact coach, speaker, and also author of How to Network Your Way to Success. It's a good book as well. We'll talk more about that a little bit later on. Paul, it's great to have you with us on the program today.
Great to be here.
Talking about communication skills today, it's probably one of the fundamental cornerstones of business. We talk about finance, we talk about sales, we talk about marketing, but if we can't talk to somebody, then the whole thing is
You're
lost.
in real trouble, absolutely. What I often say is, you know, you might have the best message in the world, but if you don't have the means with which to communicate that message, you don't have a message. You know, it's gone. And you're quite right. People will talk about all sorts of areas of business, but it all comes down to one thing ultimately. If you're in front of, whether it be one person or 400 or 1,000 or 5,000, you have to communicate that message well, with passion, to bring people in and to jump on board with your ideas.
People won't know who you are from Adam. They won't know that at all. So who is Paul Ryan? Who are you? What are you all about then?
Well, what am I all about? What do I want to admit to? That's the question. All right, so I'm a...
Well, kick off, you're an actor.
I am an actor, and I've been an actor since 1978.
My word.
Yes, heavens above.
There are people watching this that weren't even born then.
Oh, heavens above, I know. It's a frightening thought. But I recently did a show, and in my biog notes, because I'm getting so old and cynical now, I just thought, I can't be bothered to put all the credits down. I just 1978, and I figured out that my career actually spans 5 decades. 70s, 80s, 90s, noughties, tweenies. See, there they are. It's a fact. So I just put that in the programme notes, and the rest of the cast just took the mickey out of me forevermore, largely because it sounds so ludicrously boastful. But it's true. Even though I'm actually only 50, the maths work out. So in 1978, I was in the West End playing the Artful Dodger in the West End production of Oliver, which was fabulous. And after that, I did a couple of years on Grange Hill. Do you remember Tucker Jenkins?
Yeah.
Tricia Yates? Do you want to know something interesting about Tricia Yates?
Go on then.
She fancied me. Yeah, she did. And then after that, so I went into theatre, done loads of theatre, few commercials. I did, what's that, Doctors? Earlier in the year, I played a slimy auctioneer in that. And I'm going to be seen in a very exciting project called The Five on Sky Living. And that's coming out very, very soon. It's a really classy production. And I've got the biggest close-up in the world on that one. I'm really thrilled, looking forward to seeing that one on telly.
The thing that you sometimes find, and you were a bit of an enigma, in fact, for having spoken to you, what you find with a lot of actors is that they tend to be quite vanilla. So when you speak to the real person, there isn't very much going on there. Because they can very quickly, they can read a script and they can take that character person on, a bit like nearly a photocopier.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they become the character that's in the script. But you often see it when you see the chat shows and they're talking to a big Hollywood actor and they've got very little to say for themselves. I mean, and that isn't you, is it?
No, absolutely not. I think largely because I've done an awful lot of, you know, emceeing, being a compere, being a host for an evening. I karaoke. I was a host for a karaoke show for 6 years, and I've got the scars
Why
to
doesn't that
prove
surprise
it.
me?
Oh my Lord! But you see, for example, a perfect example of that is Robert De Niro. You know, a fantastic screen actor, beautiful. He's got better over the years, but if you saw him, say, for example, giving an Oscar at an award ceremony, he would be like a rabbit in the headlights, because it's a very different medium. So I've always been mostly live theatre. Certainly a lot of the stuff I've done will be improvisational. And again, when you're used to grabbing hold of an audience so they don't kill you and winning them round so that they love you and don't want to, you know, beat you up or slash your throat, that's when you learn to communicate really quick.
Well, you have worked in some rough places, haven't you?
Oh, blimey, I'll tell you, mate, the things I've seen, I wouldn't even want to describe them, boy.
So what do you think the key skills are that you bring with you? It's all very well. We talk about this a lot, having people on the programme that can do the talk, but really in the realities of life, they can't do the actual walk. So what do you... Are you a good showman, or do you bring proper skills that you've learned through the acting, through the circumstances you've been in, to people who are keen to learn how to communicate with an audience better?
Absolutely. Well, I think there's a number of things to bear in mind. Not all actors are good, say, for example, TV presenters. Not all actors are good drama teachers. They might be good communicators in one way, but not necessarily in a particular environment. And I think I started to teach drama many years ago, and through that learnt how to instruct and give instruction and give encouragement. I was doing a whole host of jobs throughout my career until around about 14 years ago, somebody offered me a job working as a presentation skills coach. And I found out I was rather good at it, because I like being in and around other people. I like helping people of a certain age make discoveries, because often what happens is you think you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, you can, and you can encourage them. I always say about my clients, you know, you give them a key to unlock a treasure chest of skills and talents that they've already got. So I love doing it. I think actors, what do we have? We have our body and our voice to tell a story, to create an environment, and we can do that very well. So what I do is I take those skills, some of them are theatre skills, though you would never tell the client that, and you encourage them to use those to, say, for example, not self-censor so much, so that as well they're using their voice to its full capacity and power. Do you know you've only got about 11 seconds before, if you can't hear something.
Well, strangely, we were discussing this beforehand, and we came to the conclusion perhaps it's not even 11 seconds. You've probably only got 4 or 5 seconds to actually capture somebody, haven't you?
Well, what I was going to say, just with regard to volume, if people can't hear, you've got 11 seconds before they just go, oh, I can't hear a word, forget it, and they've switched off.
Really?
If we're talking about making a great first impression, what we were talking about then was how long does it take to create an impression? And that's where we decided that it takes no longer than 50th of a second. Well, we didn't decide it, you know.
It was written.
It was based on some writing of Malcolm Gladwell, who said you've basically got 50th of a second.
There is a lot of people will be listening to you right now. They'll be thinking to themselves, okay, he's an actor, this is what he does. Are we seeing somebody who is giving a course who is actually just performing a role?
Thank you. No, because I absolutely insist on being what I ask other people to be. It's a bit like Laurence Olivier would say, I would never ask an actor to do something I wouldn't want to do myself. So I will go out there and I will be on the speaker circuit. For example, after the wonderful time I'm spending with you, I'm off on the road, I'm up to Coventry, and I'm going to be giving a speech for a group called Motivate tomorrow. And I'll be talking about how to really kickstart the year in a positive and fantastic fashion. I will be seen to do what I'm asking other people to do, and I think that's part of my USP. Is I absolutely, going back to your previous question, do I walk the walk as well as talk the talk? Yes, I certainly do.
When you go into organisations, what kind of size are we talking about? Are they SMEs? Are they small? Are they medium-sized? Are they large? Does that really matter?
Well, does it matter? Not particularly, because the same things tend to come up, particularly when it comes to presentation skills. I mean, I will do one-to-one coaching with people on their personal impact, but when it comes to going into a company, and I will work for, you know, all sorts of sizes. You know, Bird's Eye. I've worked for a group called Cummings, who are international. I also work for small SMEs, but you know, everybody will benefit from having their presentation skills, giving a thorough look at and an encouragement toward being better, and then finally, you know, getting them up there so that they feel confident. Because it's, we were talking about this before, you know, the first fear in the Western world is getting up and giving a public speech, is speaking in public.
They'd rather die.
They would rather die. Then second is walking into a room full of strangers. Most of the time when we present, we're in front of a room full of strangers. And you're quite right. The third fear was death.
Is there one piece of advice that you can give right now, at the very beginning of the programme?
Yeah.
One piece, very briefly, one piece of advice to people, if they watch no more of the show,
Yeah.
it would just transform the way they handle presentations.
Right, absolutely. It's as simple as this. Where's the camera? Which one can I... Hello. If you want to absolutely enhance everything that you've got in one simple step, stand up straight. And I know it sounds so simplistic, it sounds so straightforward, but it's incredible how posture dictates the way you feel and certainly the way you communicate. And of course, this stuff, oddly enough, standing up straight comes with practice, because people are walking away going, well, I'm standing up straight and I completely look a total idiot. What's he on about? Stand to your full height. Practice it. It takes practice, this stuff. But stand to your full height, get the shoulders back, get the chin up, and suddenly, you know, through doing that simple thing, you will feel more confident and you will look more confident, and your message, people will lean in because they've got confidence in you before you've said a word.
So if you look confident, then people will feel that you are confident. And the message that you are delivering, of course, is going to be carrying that gravitas that, of course, a lot of people are looking for. Do you find sometimes, and this really is very briefly, but do you find sometimes that people are always testing you when you start your presentation courses? Do they find out how much you know?
Well, do you know what's fascinating is I use the stuff that I teach. I believe it wholeheartedly because it works 100%. So they can try and test me. They will. They're bound to. They're going to want to know, am I in safe hands? But I use all my tools, tips and techniques to make sure I feel good and that before I've even spoken, they want to listen to me.
It's going to be an interesting show, isn't it? If maybe you've got a presentation coming up, maybe you're going to be going out there to get some seed funding, you've got investors that you're going to be talking to, and you just need to get that little bit of confidence. Maybe this is going to be the show that's going to be absolutely perfect for you today. My guest on today's show is Paul Ryan, presentation skills trainer and personal impact coach and speaker as well. Also author of How to Network Your Way to Success. You're watching Business Connections Live. And it's always good to have great guests who are just a little bit edgy. You're the first guest, I think, ever that's looked straight down the camera lens and gone, which camera am I on?
Hey, wow,
as if he is in charge. What's going on?
I'm taking over.
And my director said in my ear as well, my word, all these impersonations we've had. Laurence Olivier, we've had Alan Tishmarsh was one impersonation that you did.
Ooh. Oh, yes, I did. And that was the strangest thing because a friend of mine, Alex Bourne, who's a wonderful, wonderful performer, he's playing Daddy Warbucks in the national tour of Annie at the moment. He came up to me one day and he said, you sound just like Alan Titchmarsh. And I went, rubbish. He went, no, when you speak, you sound like Alan Titchmarsh. He went, I don't. He said, do an impression. And I went, well, I don't think I know what you mean. And all of a sudden I realised it was there for me. So if anybody wants an Alan Titchmarsh at their party...
there's your man.
Yeah.
So it's going to be an entertaining program for no other reason. Lovely to have you with us. We're live at the moment. If you are watching us live, thank you very much indeed for your company. Don't forget we're live every Monday at noon here on Business Connections Live. We're going to go back to 2015 right now on the last programme that we did in the normal format. Of course, we had our best of 2015 and we had the big Christmas party show, which was a lot of fun. Can I just thank all the guests and everybody that was involved with that? That was great fun. We had a fantastic day. And when we went off air, the party didn't stop. There was a lot of business networking going on. It truly was a proper networking event. And we'd like to thank all our guests that came along on the day. Thank you very much indeed for being part of Business Connections Live for our big Christmas party show. One lady who couldn't make it to the show, though, was Helen Panzerino. She was on the previous week's programme. We were talking all about the processes, the things that you need to do when it comes to funding. Helene has just published a book. It's one of the For Dummies series. It's Funding for Dummies, a fascinating book, a real reference book if you're in business, because, you know, maybe 2016 is the year that you're going to go out there and you're going to get the additional funding that you need for your business to make it grow, to make it expand, to make it more successful. You maybe find that you're on a bit of a ledge at the moment, or you're maybe just sitting there in those kind of, that place where you can't move the business on. Well, the book will give you the opportunity and also the insight in how to get that funding that you need, how to prepare for the presentations that you need to do, and the right people to talk to as well. There's one expression you came out with when you're trying to raise money, and it's coming back to me now. It was, don't forget, the first port of call is family, friends and fools. So if you are raising money, maybe that's where you are at the moment, but if you want to do it more professionally, then you do need to get Helene's book. To give you a bit of an insight into the programme, have a look at this. On today's show, we're going to be discussing alternative finance versus traditional banks, what types of finance you might need and where you can get it from. My guest on today's show is Helene Panzerino, Investment Readiness Advisor and author of a brand new book that's out right now called Funding Your Business for Dummies.
I think preparation and research and creating relationships with potential people to help you. When you're in the moment of something, and this is the same for getting help in selling a business as it is for funding a business, being in the moment that you have need is not the time to start looking for help. You need to start that process long in advance. Whatever the business is, whether you make shoes or you make shirt folders, you need to know your numbers. Well, for some figures, like your gross profit margin,
yes,
you should know that number. You shouldn't have to remember it. You should be living it. If you're in your business and you're watching your financials, you're looking at your income, you're monitoring your margin, you're looking at your costs on a regular basis, because often people will create a business plan, put it in the bottom drawer and forget about it and not update any of the information, not do monthly management accounts, not check until they're doing their tax returns, possibly at the end of the year, or their VAT quarterly returns. Especially in the early stages, you really need to be looking at your financials. I don't know if there's one thing that people do right now. I mean, you're right in the sense that everybody's looking for funding, and what's great right now is that there is a lot of funding out there. It's just finding the right business for the right funding and letting that funding find you. I think most people, especially at the startup phase, will go to their bank because that's the thing they know. We've grown up with our banks. We've had bank accounts with them. We've had credit cards with them. We've had student loans or other loans with them. So we think to ourselves, mortgages, we'll go to our bank. We might also go to our friends and family, which is sometimes good and sometimes bad, depending on the agreements that you have with them, which is why they call it friends, families, and fools, or soon to become enemies. But if you do get turned down by your bank, the thing is to not, you can appeal it. You don't feel like you're a victim. You have no other choice. You can go to another bank as well. But you should also step back and say, actually, have I done this correctly? Maybe you need a bit of help and advice to get your documents together, your pitch together, your presentation together. Have I done something wrong too? Equity is, as you say, it's sharing a bit of your company, and people need to stop thinking about I'm giving away. You're selling shares in your company. So there's a transaction going on where you're giving away some of your equity so that you get investment, and sometimes you get more than that. You get networking, you get connections, you get some expertise, you get someone who can bring more business to your business. But there's a mental adjustment that you need when you sell equity, that you're comfortable with the fact that you are selling part of your business. For me, and I've always taken this view, some people disagree on the business plan, but I still agree on the business plan. It doesn't need to be a 58-page business plan. It needs to be succinct and clear. For me, it's a roadmap where your business is going, and funding is part of that. So definitely, I would advocate start with a business plan. Just, the 4 basic areas of the business plan. You're looking at finance, you're looking at operations, you're looking at marketing, and you're looking at the executive summary. You need to be looking at the individual investors, the network of investors, and then the general crowd of investors, and where they fit in your business now, but also in future rounds. Really get to know them as people or as a group of investors. It is a relationship. You are selling shares, but you are also getting someone involved, additional governance, paperwork, reporting. You need to know that you can work with these people. And if you want to go on to other kinds of funding, I had a lovely interview with someone that runs a sharing economy business. He had equity investment up front, but he also wanted to go to the crowd because he realized that his customers wanted to invest in his business. Now, you need agreement from the equity investor to say, yeah, that's a great idea, but I'm going to dilute my shareholding as well. I'm Helene Panzerino. I'm an investment readiness advisor, and I would say in terms of funding your business, remember that it takes time. Time, your time, the team's time, and a long time to create a relationship, whether that's for lending or it's for equity. Remember that there's a cost. That's a real cost, paying legal fees or paying accountancy fees, and the cost of your time. So plan for that in your forecasting. Remember to plan. Plan not just for 3 months or 4 months or 5 months or 6 months of funding, but look beyond that and have a longer term, mid and longer term view. And remember that there is help and advice, and to go look for it, weigh it up, and then choose carefully.
Absolutely fantastic show, an inspiring show to a certain extent as well. If you are looking for funding for your business at the moment, I do suggest very, very strongly that you watch the entire hour. It's a great, great show. And Helene Panzerino, and she really knows what she's talking about. Started off in banking, worked her way through banking, then had her own business, sold her own business, made all the mistakes that you're making right now, and now, and for a number of years, has been working in raising funds for businesses to succeed and be successful. So if you do get an opportunity, do watch that edition of Business Connections Live. It was a terrific, terrific show, and our thanks to Helene Panzerino for being on the programme. You're watching Business Connections Live. My guest on today's show is Paul Ryan, presentation skills trainer and personal impact coach and speaker. We're talking about how to improve your business through greater interpersonal communications. I mean, it's probably the most important thing that you're going to need to do in your business, or any business for that matter. If we don't communicate with somebody else in the business and we don't do it effectively, imagine just how much time is lost, how much time is wasted by not relaying the message correctly. And we've all done it. We know we all do it. How many times have you kind of half-heartedly, or you've maybe expected somebody to know the full story and you've just given a bit of the story assuming they know the rest of it? And they don't. You've just got to be clear in how you communicate. We send out a little form to everybody, don't we? And we ask them what they're going to be talking about and the key things. And there was an interesting statistic on there about interpersonal skills. Just give us a summary of that.
Was this the one that you put out with all the tweets and all that stuff?
That's the one.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Yeah. So there was a CEO of an unnamed FTSE 100 company, and under his guesstimate, bearing in mind he'd been in business for years, was that 80% of all communications in the workplace fail. 80%. Why
do you think that is? I mean, it's interesting that he identified that. Do you agree with him, and why do you think that is the case?
Well, you know, that's very interesting. Do I agree with him? I certainly know that in my household, 80% of communications fail all the time. I don't know. I mean, that's his view. It's a fascinating overview.
The old
and an
80-20 there, isn't it?
It's the old 80-20, exactly. 4 times out of 5 times that you speak, it won't work. The communication won't come across. Now, you very quite rightly highlighted the responsibility of the person speaking, but it's two-way, isn't it? I have to give, but you also have to be able to receive. So it's about sometimes enhancing your listening skills, making sure that you actively listen so that you take the message on. But how many times, say, for example, in a work situation, are you talking to somebody and they're just going, yep, and they're on this computer screen and they go, yeah, no problem, when? Yeah, absolutely, yeah, that's fine. It's gone.
Dude, it's amazing. It's a story that I'm going to get hit for later, but the co-director here, the executive director, Linda Bazan, you can talk to Linda when she's on the computer and she will not hear you because she is so locked into what she is doing on the keyboard and on the screen.
Your ability...
And I am listening all the time, so I'm always in input mode.
Yeah.
But Linda is very, very selective hearing, it's been called, but Linda is very sort of focused on exactly what she's doing and therefore not listening to me. She actually has to stop to listen.
Yeah. And that's absolutely right. And Linda, you know, just so that you know, hello in there, you are not at all in the minority. You are the majority. Do you know, it's fascinating, the way that we give and receive messages. It's the Moravian statistic. He later recanted it, but as trainers we love it, so we've stuck with it. It's 55% body language, 38% tone of voice, and 7% the words you're using. So straight away, the power is in what you see over what you hear, and if you're not looking at the person, you're missing out on most of the way they're communicating their message to you. So is it any wonder you can't take it on board? You're missing out on all those visual cues, clues rather, to help you understand what the message is that's being given you.
What about repetition? Could we kind of touch on it there a moment or so ago? When you're presenting an idea or a concept, throughout your presentation, should you be repeating it? It's a bit like the old, tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you've told them.
Exactly.
For instance, in radio and TV advertising, they've got to hear it, in radio, they've got to hear it 4 or 5 times before anybody will react to a radio commercial. So there's no good just having a radio commercial. You've got to have a campaign, and therefore 4, 5, 20, 30, 40, 50, so that people will actually hear it. Does the same apply in one-to-one training environments or presentations?
Certainly, I think the example that you've given is absolutely standard and brilliant. Tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them, and then tell them what you've told them. And you see that structure as well. So, for example, in the news programmes, they'll give you the headlines, then they'll go into the details, then at the end of the show, they'll repeat all the headlines again, so that it goes in. Absolutely. And for those people that you mentioned, have got some big pitches coming up, it's a brilliant way to structure your presentation. Because you're letting people know what they're going to be told, so that they're already open to that, and when it comes in, you're not wrong-footing them, and when you tell it them again, they think, yep, I know about all this. So you're giving them reassurance and repetition, and I certainly think there's a great value in repetition, inculcation, if you like, learning through repetition. Definitely keep repeating. Another great tip, actually, for people's presentations is look at your content and take half of it away. Because we tend to overstuff. We tend also not to practice. We tend also to think, oh, what have I got to say?
Well, I think a lot of people, what they do, they will use the likes, maybe you do this, but I've seen this in some large organisations where they will use PowerPoint, and they call it, of course, death by PowerPoint, but they will use PowerPoint to nearly structure their ideas. So what you're actually seeing, you're not seeing a presentation, what you're really seeing is their ideas being structured out and being given a little bit of, meat on the bone, effectively.
And the difficulty with that is what you'll see is overstuffed slides. There'll be all the information on there, and they go, right, you say, no, I've got my presentation, it's all sorted out, beautiful. Then when they get up to do it, they'll read. And what you get then is that. And that is not communicating anywhere as near as well as that. Also, if you're reading, your tone will become flattened. Remember, 38% is tone of voice. And the minute people start reading, I have seen one example of this, and I've been doing presentation skills for 15 years. Only one person that read beautifully and well, and in an unliberated, in an unrestrained manner, rather. Most people, even if they're good, sound like they're reading. Big tip, think about Steve Jobs, one of the best presenters in the history of the modern world, okay? He would stand in front of a PowerPoint slide that had one word on it, and the word was something like joy. And then he would talk all about that. And who you're focusing on? You're not focusing on a myriad of notes and too much information on a screen. You're focusing on the person that's doing the talking.
But there is a danger that when you do that, that the presentation, particularly if shall we say, it's a corporate presentation, maybe to shareholders and people like that, there is an element then of risk that has been built into the presentation. Now, there are people like yourself, I'd like to think like myself as well, who we can read round autocue, when we can read the autocue, but we can, you can read round it, and you can deviate from it, and you can come back to it, and you can pick up, and you can ad-lib. But there are people out there, for instance, we say that if you've got a corporate message to get over, unless you're a good speaker, then sometimes a good piece on autocue will actually be just as effective, if not more so. However, on saying that, there have been people that have come into our studios and approved the case as well. Let's talk a little bit more about putting together those presentations. Is there a structure that you should be putting together on a presentation? We've already said, tell them what you're going to tell them, and then do you think, is it better to use words, or is it better to use pictures when we're standing up there? And also in what we say, the way we vocalize things, is it better to be using statistical information, numerical information, or is it better to give a picture concept of it?
Well, ultimately, I would say Probably a little bit of all of those, because people have got different brains. Some are visual, aren't they? Some are very data driven. Some people are more oral. This goes back to sort of NLP stuff. So I would say a little bit of all is good. Interestingly, I won't use any. When I get up to give a presentation, I think maybe there's been 3 times when I've used slides, and that's because the sponsors or the people employing me have asked me to do so. But most businesses will use them. So I would say a good mixture of all. And is there something else we can do to help simple structure? Yeah, 3 points. I'm going to, you know this thing about tell them what you're going to tell them? Say, we're going to be talking for 20 minutes, so they know how long they've got to listen to you. And I'm going to discuss 3 things with you, so they know they've got 1, 2 and 3 things. So when you've done the first one, they know there's only 2 left. When you've done 2, they know there's 1 more point, because you've got to keep them leaning in and not switching off. And if they know the roadmap of the presentation, they're going to carry along with you.
It's interesting, the whole area of triplets seems to come in quite a lot in public speaking.
Oh, absolutely.
You hear politicians, you know, we will tell them this, we will tell them this, and we will tell them this. Those 3 things. And of course, there are techniques there as well where you can elicit a response, even an applause, by the tone and the delivery of the different things you're saying. Have you used techniques like that yourself?
Well, you know what? Tone is 38%. Tone is 38%. And I think also genuine enthusiasm for what you're saying, passion, this fantastically overused phrase, passion. We're all passionate about everything. I remember on The Apprentice, one of the apprentices said, "Oh, I'm passionate about selling these cups of coffee." And I said, "Well, all right, then you can be enthusiastic, but passionate, but true passion, true enthusiasm through what you're saying is vital, and it's incredibly contagious." So I tend not to go for what's the word I'm looking for, ultimate specifics in direction of what people will do. I'm looking at the foundation stones. If I unlock your enthusiasm in what you're saying and what you're talking about, it will become immediately enlivened. Absolutely. I don't work with politicians. I've never actually had to get somebody to get a round of applause at a specific point. In my own way, have I ever done it myself? No, I haven't, but I'm looking forward to learning how to do it.
Listen, more to come if you are in that bunker at the moment when it comes to your personal presentation techniques. This is the show to be watching today with my guest, Paul Ryan. You're watching Business Connections Live. Great to have your company as always here on a Monday. We are live. Paul, as I just said, is our guest today. Maybe you've got a whole year ahead of you where you're going to be doing presentation techniques or presentations to different people within your organisation. Interesting, you were talking about the vocal range and the way you use your voices. In just a moment, we'll talk a little bit more about that, because you as an actor.
Yes.
Go on, give us your Kenneth Williams.
Oh, matron, when I said let's have it off, I meant let's have it off, not let's have it off.
Sorry about that. And we better not do that again, because when I let that genie out of the bottle, he won't go back in.
He won't go back in. He'll be dropping into him inadvertently and a drop of a hat.
We probably will, yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. Listen, we've got more from Paul in just a few moments' time. Now, if you're finding today's programme engaging, isn't that what this is all about? Engaging your audience. How are you sending out newsletters? Are you sending out emails? And if you are sending out email campaigns at the moment, maybe you've got a customer relationship manager that you're using at the moment. If you are sending that out to people and you're doing all that, what do you do next? You've written the words, you've engaged them a bit with the words, but where do they go to next? How do you really turn them on? How do you really get them to be going, you know, I really want to deal. This lot are different. I've received all these emails from X, Y and Z. I quite like what they're writing in Y. I like them. Yeah, they're okay. Where do you go next? Well, where you go next is you turn your readers into viewers. How would you like to have a programme just like this one for your organisation and for your business? How do I do that? Completely branded. Your logos, your CEO on the programme, talking about what your business is all about. Something that's a little bit different, something that's going to engage your potential customers. We call it Your Brand TV. Still sending out conventional newsletters to customers?
Do you just want a more engaging way to talk to your customers and employees?
Hello, I'm Steve Hyland.
And I'm Linda Bazant of Business Connections Live.
Your Brand TV is a completely branded television show that can be streamed live or delivered on demand to your niche audience. Be the first in your market to capitalise on the online media gold rush that is using online video to effectively deliver news, information and education to key personnel and clients.
Video attracts 2 to 3 times as many monthly visitors. It doubles their time spent on your site and has a 150% increase in organic traffic from search engines. Large networking organisations are already utilising the power of Your Brand TV to market, promote and publicise to their members and groups across the UK.
Your programme will be branded with your corporate colours and logos in your own broadcast quality network studio.
You can choose the format. It can be news or magazine or interview in its look and feel.
You can have live guests on your show, or you can Skype them in.
You can stream the show live or on demand, so it's available for catch-up.
This is a chance to deliver your message in a new exciting format that will allow your business to cut through the noise and stand out from the crowd and engage your workforce and customers. This is Your Brand TV.
To get more information on this fabulous opportunity to bring to life your corporate communications, contact us today at Business Connections Live, the UK's leading online business channel.
Your Brand TV is a great idea if you are a small to medium scale enterprise, a small business, and you're looking to engage your audience in 2016. That, let me tell you right now, is the way to go about doing it. If you think about your website right now, in 5 years' time, it will not look like the way it looks right now. Does that make sense what I just said? But you know what I mean. The website is going to look completely different. It will look like, websites will look like TV channels. That's the way it's going to be. Video is just going to be everywhere. We're at the beginning of it now. Do not be left behind. Do not be at the back of that queue when the revolution comes. You need to be at the front. You need to be inspiring other people. When people go to your website, don't be having one of these talking head and shoulder shots. You know, use a little bit more. Think a little bit more about what you're trying to do when you're trying to project the image of your business. When you put your calls to action in, your closes, you know, think of a different camera angle. Do something a little bit different, you know, blah, 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 blah. Turn to another camera. Buy it now. Really, start using video. It is one of the most powerful mediums out there. And remember, if you're thinking that a presentation is going to be powerful, well, once you've captured it, and it's a powerful presentation, think how you can use it. What a fantastic tool. If you want more details, if you want to share some of our passion for 2016 when it comes to using video in your business, then here's how you go about doing it. You can contact us here at studio@businessconnectionslive.com. I'll wait. There it is. It's as simple as that. Just simply go along, email us. You can talk to either myself or to Linda as well. You can call us on 01784 256 777. That's our telephone number. While that number's on the screen, here's something. Never ever throw your telephone number away. You hear it on the radio and you see it on the television. People who are used to giving out the telephone number to the audience, what they'll go is, yeah, if you want to give us a call now, 1784 256 777. No. It could be the first time someone's hearing that. So think of that. 01784 256 777. Give the number the integrity it deserves so that it becomes a tool. Don't throw it away. You're throwing an opportunity away. And if you want to follow us, of course, on Twitter, then it is BCL Business TV. You can follow us there and you can get the great thinkings and the thoughts of both myself, Linda, and also Gordon as well, who occasionally will stick the odd tweet up there. Or tweet up there, who knows, which is of very little importance. Anyway, there you go. If you want to get in touch with Your Brand TV, it's a fantastic idea. You're watching Business Connections Live. My guest on today's show is Paul Ryan, presentation skills trainer and personal impact coach, and also speaker as well. He's also the author of a book as well called Network Your Way to Success. Here it is here, sitting on the desk next to me. Interesting book, by the way. If you do want to get your copy of this, it's available on Amazon, is it?
Yeah, available on Amazon. I, of course, am the namesake of the Speaker of the House of Representatives now in America, Paul Ryan.
Yes, Paul Ryan. If you do put in Paul Ryan Ryan into Google, all sorts come up.
All sorts of things come up.
There's an actor as well, an American actor as well.
Yeah, and there's a brilliant graphic artist who's done all sorts of the artwork for some of the brilliant comics that there are, Batman and all that sort of stuff. But here's the nice thing. If you punch in Paul Ryan in Amazon UK, my book comes above the other Paul Ryan, the American Paul Ryan's. My book's above his, so go me. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, listen, it's a great book, and, you know, how to network your way to success. Let's talk a little bit about the book in just a moment. But before that, let's just close off. We were talking about vocal technique and I mean, it's all very well. I mean, years in radio, years in shopping telly, and you start to learn how to use your voice. You understand that, you know, get closer to the microphone, you can be more intimate. You understand about using silences in your presentations.
Absolutely.
For Joe Public, for Mr. Business Owner, what are the advice you would give them when it comes to vocal technique?
The first thing I would say is make sure that you're audible. Because if people can't hear you, as I said earlier, you've got about 11 seconds before they just go, I can't hear a word. And they'll be on the device. So make sure you're audible. Now, what's a really good way of doing this and showing your viewers?
Well, I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
When we've organised conferences for people, you will give them a microphone, and they don't. This is the truth. You'll give them the microphone, and they will go, "Good afternoon." Oh, it's a bit loud, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then they will hold the microphone away from and you get the "Good afternoon."
Yeah.
Here today, and that happens when they give you a microphone. Use the microphone, because that way people are going to hear you, and it's true, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And the other thing that I see people doing with microphones is they'll take a microphone, and if they don't do what you've just described, and I've seen that too, is they'll start speaking more quietly, thinking that the microphone will do the work for them, and it won't.
No, it's a presentation. The clue is in the word.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But more than that, thinking about in terms of volume, you know, it will only broadcast, if you like, what you're putting into it. So it won't make you louder per se, it will just make you audible. If you're quiet behind a microphone, you'll be quiet through the speakers.
Just hold on one second. I think under here I've got a soapbox that I can stand
Is it big enough for two?
Yeah, yeah. But it is true. Honestly, it's very, very frustrating to be sitting in an audience. If you are the CEO of a business, if you are anybody in a business and you have got to give a presentation, please let the audience hear you. Do not think that they've all got great hearing. My hearing's shot to pieces with the headphones on too loud for too many years. I can't hear anything. They call it selective hearing here, but actually it's because, you know, my top end is gone. The top end of my hearing is gone. The bit, actually, where the intelligible information is, I can't hear very well. In a crowd, in a noisy environment, I can't hear very well. So I need you to be loud, I need you to be concise. And the reason I'm wearing this, by the way, is it's not a deaf aid, it's so that my director can talk to me. So there, what's that you say? No, I'm not. Okay, let's move on. So that's very true, isn't it? So present.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm just trying to think of a simple technique to share with your viewers that they can use today. A really, really good thing to do. You're going to do this with me?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. If you imagine, like, you can either speak through a ukulele, which is a small sound box with a small hole, and I want you to do this for me. This is the ukulele where you don't use jaw drop. I want you to say ta la ba na ka, not moving your jaw. Go.
Ta la ba na ka.
Very good. It sounds like a ventriloquist. This time, I want you to do this for me, or I'll do it if you're too modest. I'm going to take 3 fingers, and I'm going to put them in my mouth. Now, look. That's going to be quite a stretch. Are you going to try it?
Not for me.
Come on, son.
Probably get my whole hand in there.
Here we go. Here. That is what we call your jaw drop. And opera singers will use the whole of the mouth to create sound by really using that jaw drop. Jaw drop, it's great. So before you give your presentation, warm up your jaw. You can do it by massaging the jaw and pulling it down. But the best thing to do, take those old 3 fingers, and by doing that, you've stretched it out. Now, I want you to say, ta la ba na ka, firstly, now you've done that, haven't you? You've done that.
Yeah.
So, firstly, by using the ukulele, and then with that, which is turning your voice into a rich, sonorous double bass.
So that's
firstly.
ta la ba na na.
Good.
Yeah.
And?
Ta la ba na na.
Banana, we've got banana. But you know, straight away we can hear it.
It's louder.
It's louder, and you know what? It's a simple way of creating more sound and letting the sound flow from you to your audience. Okay?
Now, what about people that have... Where does the voice come from? I mean, I know it comes from here, but for instance, Americans can sound so much more authoritative because they speak going really off the subject.
We really are.
They're further back in the throat, aren't they? So they're speaking from down here. So what about, should CEOs, should business owners be thinking how to make themselves sound a little bit more authoritative? Margaret Thatcher, for instance, she lowered her voice,
Yeah,
didn't she?
she lowered her voice, absolutely. She was a classic case. Now, there's a gender split here. What gentlemen, men tend to do when they stand up in front of an audience is they get very, very deep and very, very low. And before you know it, they're speaking incredibly seriously. And they've lost all their tonal range. And they stay down there. What women, female ones, tend to do is they become rather high-pitched, and then they can stay up there for a very, very long time. Now, the problem with both of those is they're both valid tones of voice, if you like, but if there's no variety, you'll stop listening. You will stop listening. Tone of voice, 38% of the way we communicate. And what I suggest is, viewers, listen to Steve, listen to me, and what you'll probably hear is that there's a great deal of tonal shift in what we're doing. So I would say, whether the Americans throw their voice at the back of the throat or not, it's tonal variety.
Come a little bit closer to me.
Hello.
That's better.
Is
You're
that
in shot
better?
now.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm in shot. I'm so sorry. I'm getting overexcited. I'm moving out of the studio. But yeah, so tonal variety, really, really important. And if you have tonal variety, you're going to keep the listener listening. If they get too much of the same thing, this incredible 11 seconds, if they get too much of the same, what's the worst telephone call you can receive? It's a cold call. And the reason why it's so difficult is because it's monotone and it's often red. So the minute you hear it, you have no interest. Correct? Absolutely. Same with people who get up and give a presentation. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know why I put a slightly Cockney accent on, but go with it. Good morning,
blimey.
God blimey, Governor. But here I am. I want to talk to you today about what we're going to do with the company, which we've had a very exciting year. And all of a sudden, it's the same tone, gone. So it's tonal variety. It's knowing what energy to come in with as well and changing that energy so that all the time you're helping the listener to listen. You do it all the time.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about that, the tonal... Thank you very much. That tonal variety as well. When it comes to starting your presentation, now, both of us have looked at TED. If you're not familiar with the TED network, do go on and onto the internet, type in TED presentations, TED network. Real insight, really great speakers go on there. How do you start? How should you start a presentation? Because there seems to be differing views. Some people say the thing that you don't do is you walk on and go, "Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is..." I don't know why I've gone that accent.
Hey, it's catching. It's catching.
It's just catching. But that you shouldn't start with that. Really, you should start in the middle of a story. What would I say to you if I was to tell you this?
Yeah.
You know, to start somewhere different, because why tell them who you are? You've just told them, they've probably just been introduced.
Absolutely.
So why are they telling them again?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, there's a whole host of things you need to do to start your presentation. And if you want to win your audience round, all that starts before you've said a word. That's my view. You know, this thing about what we believe what we see. Okay, and if we don't like what we see, already you've got a negative response. Fight or flight's going to go, well, I've got this resource, which is my time. Is this person going to fill it with really, really good information that they're going to entertain and educate, or are they going to bore me? So the first thing you need to do is make sure that your posture and your physical attitude is open. You're quite right. What you did there naturally was you hit it with a certain degree of energy and you asked a question. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
See, I start my keynotes with a reality check. That's what's on my side, reality check. And I think the way you've got it, you're nearly shocking them into attention, in a way, because there are so many presenters out there that will start, "My name is Fred Bloggs, and da-da-da-da, I'm here today, hope you've had a good morning, did you enjoy the coffee, da-da-da."
Yeah.
You are wasting my time. Just get to the point, the reason I want to see you.
Well, you obviously start in a very dynamic way. And interestingly, I would suggest as well, you're coming out at an energy level 7, but I can guarantee, because I've actually seen you speak, you will then drop down to an energy level 5, sometimes then to a 3. Sometimes, because you've got fantastic energy, you'll hit a 10, then you'll go down to a 1. Now, all these energy levels are valid, but you shouldn't stick to any one of them for too long. I always tell my clients, who aren't professional presenters, you know, come out at energy level 5 because it makes you feel secure. It's a good energy level for people to, you'll be heard if you're doing all the other techniques that I teach people, but also then you've got somewhere to go. If you want to enthuse for a moment, you raise your energy level up to a 7. If you want to go crazy, you hit a 10. And if you want to really, really make a point and make it heard, you use energy level 1. Boom. It's very, very powerful stuff, this.
And silences as well.
Silences.
That leaving a gap.
Absolutely, because that's another thing that I see all the time, and we were discussing it before, how people they fear the silence. They fear if they're not talking all the time and giving information, they're somehow failing in their job, if you like. Well, I would suggest pausing is one of your best friends. Do you know, we micro pause or pause every 25 words when we have a normal conversation. So a mini pause or a micro pause every 25 words. Why don't we do that when we get up and speak in public? What are we afraid of? I think it's to do with the fact that nerves will make people speak very, very quickly. They will start to rattle. It's one of the fight or flight responses. Your thinking processes completely stop and you start to rattle. And then you'll lose the tone of voice. You'll also probably lose your thread. How many people, have you seen that forget what they're saying? It's a fight or flight response. You know, going back to what we were talking about, public speaking is the number one fear in the world. Well, as you're getting ready to give that speech, you're going to go into fight or flight mode. And I teach people a whole host of things to make sure that, you know, there's a thing called the Yerch-Dodson's law, and it states basically that a small amount of stress will improve your performance, but too much and it will break it. So a small amount of stress, we don't want anybody being asleep at the wheel or getting cocky, we don't want that, but a small amount of stress keeps you focused.
Remember that thought.
Oh, all right.
That's it. And talk to time. You're watching Business Connections Live. It's great to have you company. My guest on today's show is Paul Ryan, presentation skills trainer and personal impact coach and speaker. I hope you're enjoying today's show. Real insight. The impersonations have been fantastic. Really enjoyed that. If you want to find out more about Paul, you'll find all the details about him on our website at businessconnectionslive.com. You can also go to his website, which is here on my screen at the moment. And there's a very old video he told me earlier on, but it's interesting. Go through. Voice breaking. Go through the maturity at last. Yes. Go through the website. You'll get some really good hints there. But do, if you can, get the book. There's a lot of great information in the book as well. A lot of people do actually look for that information on how to calm yourself pre-speaking in public. A lot of people look for that. There's a lot of that information available there. Here is the book, How to Network Your Way to Success by Paul Ryan. That's available at and on Amazon right now. You're watching Business Connections Live now. Don't start that clock yet, because we've just got to tell you a little bit about our good friends at TubeBuddy who have made today possible. Our thanks to TubeBuddy. Thank you very much indeed. Now, TubeBuddy, the premier YouTube channel management toolkit. If you are using YouTube at the moment as a way to get your information out there, to actually get it out, if you're using the tools that YouTube give you, then all well and good. There are other tools, though, that you need when it comes to things like tags, understanding what your title should be saying, what the analytics are doing on your website. And then when it comes to how do you go about actually managing those things, wouldn't it be great if you could find a tool that would say, well, okay, I now want to put a annotation in all my videos. Now, we've got something like 400 videos up there at the moment, 400 individual programs. Wouldn't it be great if you could say, right, I want to put this annotation in all 400 videos? Would that be magnificent? But at the moment, through YouTube's dashboard, you've got to do it one at a time. With TubeBuddy, you can do all 400 in one go. How amazing is that? It'll give you the information. Let me show you some of the features that it's got. This is their website. It is www.tubebuddy.com. Let's just have a look at the website. There it is. And some of the top internet marketeers use TubeBuddy. But look at this, productivity tools, advanced video embedding. You really change the way your video player looks. Annotation templates, bulk copy annotations. You can bulk delete, so therefore you can update and do campaigns. You can do thumbnail overlays as well. update the cards, canned responses to people that actually join on and become subscribers. You can go back with a great response to them, card templates, published with a single click to your Facebook channel as well. And of course, Facebook is becoming more and more important when it comes to video. But if you've used YouTube to publish your video, what you want is a single button that you press that will send your YouTube video with all the content to Facebook. TubeBuddy can do that. Let me just show you the other things very quickly. Video SEO tools, they're all there. Caption services, channel ranking, all the tools that you could possibly need. Promotional tools as well when you're connecting with your community, when you're talking to your social networks as well. Your research tools as well are there. Basic competitor analysis, best time to publish, social monitor, language analysis. It's all there. And it's just a fantastic tool. Do you know, it must cost a fortune. Mustn't it? It must cost a fortune. It doesn't. It really is incredibly cost effective. If you'd like more details, go to our website. There's a link on there as well that'll take you to TubeBuddy. But if you want to go straight to their website, it's www.tubebuddy.com. We'd like to thank them as well because we use them all the time. It is probably the most important web-based tool that we use here in our business to make our YouTube channel more effective. And do you know what? You can do the same. TubeBuddy, check it out, and we'd like to thank TubeBuddy for their support of Business Connections Live. You're watching Business Connections Live. Paul Ryan, presentation skills trainer and personal impact coach and speaker, also the author of How to Network Your Way to Success. We've been talking about all the different skills that you need when it comes to making more effective presentations. I'm going to ask you very shortly, in about 6 or so minutes' time, no pressure, to give us all the takeaways that we need. Are there other areas, do you think, we should be considering in the way that we communicate? Do you think the written word as well, should we reflect the way that we present ourselves in the written word in a similar fashion, same voice?
Yeah, absolutely. Speak in the same voice, write in your own voice if you can, but that's not an area. I mean, there are copywriters out there who will do that. That's not my area of expertise at all. Mine is taking that stuff, putting bullet points in it, and then bringing it to life. That would be where I could help people.
Nicely done, by the way.
Thank you very much. I dodged that bullet.
That was that was very well done. If you're looking at the corporate presenter, we've talked about don't do death by PowerPoint. The actual slides, to a certain extent, aren't that important. If you're going to put anything on them, keep it. You know, don't fill them. Maybe a picture would be quite nice.
Picture can be good. Like you said, sometimes some details. Appeal to all the different types of thinking brain that you've got out there, absolutely, yes.
Now, we haven't touched on that at all, so just explain a little bit more about that, because some people will see in pictures, some people will see in words, some people will think in smells, and some people
some will.
come in their ears.
Absolutely, but I think you basically covered it all there. I mean, our brains pick up information in different ways. So, for example, I'm quite visual. So I like pictures. And interestingly enough, you know, during a presentation, people will use, say, a cartoon that's quite funny, and they'll flick it up and they go, OK, so what that's telling us, and they won't give your audience time to look at it, get the joke and understand the relevance of it to what you're about to say. So that goes back to pausing again, doesn't it? Absolutely.
How important do you think timing is?
In what respect?
Do you think it's important?
Oh, vital.
Do you think really?
Absolutely. Well, you don't want to. I mean, if you've got some people have got to give a 45-minute presentation, some people have got to give an hour and 20 minutes. Those are the constraints. Ideally, they say, don't they, on TED, 20 minutes.
But,
in fact,
but I think what I meant was, I meant in the way you deliver. You were talking there, you were alluding to the fact that the picture goes up on the screen and people don't give the opportunity for people to take in what they see.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of, it's the in presentation timing.
Well, there's something that I call click blur, and what happens if you've got too many slides, what people can tend to do is they will blur the end of one message by clicking to the next slide before they've made their final point. And that's what I call click blur. So they would do something like, so if you look at the screen, that's basically what we'll be doing in 1987, and our profits should go up as a result of that. Now, so that's gone.
That's gone.
A sentence only makes sense when you've said the end of it. And actually, what tends to happen is the power will run toward the end of the sentence, then the paragraph, and then the topic. So if you click before you've made your final point, it's gone. So I try and help my clients to finish their point, click, look at the slide, give the audience a chance to look at the slide, and then comment.
In the old days, when there were overhead presenters or overhead projectors,
Yeah.
overhead presenters.
Wow.
Presenters
Looking
up there,
good.
there he is.
Yeah.
He's fantastic. When there were overhead projectors.
Yeah, yeah.
The technique that was used there would be, and I remember once, I remember doing this, and so you would turn the projector on and you would see everybody's eyes in the room look at the screen. You would make your point for what was on the screen. You would then turn the projector off and the eyes would naturally come back to you.
Yes, yes.
I remember once doing this, I was turning it on, turning it off, and the bloke at the front said, "You're going to blow the bulb in that, mate." But is there an equivalent of that today with the PowerPoint presentation?
Absolutely, and it's as simple as pie. Press W. If you're using PowerPoint and you want to switch it to a blank screen, you press W, and it goes beautifully. It fades to white, and then to get it up again, press any key, and you're up, and then you press your.
Do you know,
forward
I've
button.
never known that. That is just terrific.
Stick
So
with me,
press
kid.
W.
Press W, it'll fade to white, beautiful, and then you press any key, it will bring the screen back up, and then you can click forward onto your next slide.
All right, but now we're running out of time, so I want to get through a few other bits and pieces. Eye contact. How important is eye contact? What's the best way of doing it? Because that seemed, to engage your audience with eye contact. How do you go about doing
Okay,
that?
best example I can give, Frankie Howard. Brilliant. And I can't
Can you do Frankie Howard?
Oh, yeah, no, I can't actually. It's a bit too much like my Kenneth Williams, unfortunately. But I went to see Frankie Howard give.
So it must be a short act.
It's a very well, my act. That's it. It's anyway. Look, point being that I went to see him, and he was very. It was his last tour that he ever gave. So he was very old. He was as old as all of his jokes. I mean, it was pretty creaky old material. And what he did, which was utterly incredible, was he would be doing these old gags, and the audience was sort of groaning a bit. But then at one stage, he looked at me. Well, you know what I mean, don't you? And I went, yeah. And it was a moment of absolute connection, and it was like he was just talking to me. And from then on, he could do no wrong. I was brought right in and right on side. And then as I watched him, I thought, he's doing that to everybody. He's working the whole audience. So yes, absolutely.
So
eye contact is vital.
he wasn't actually, he was looking in your general direction.
Well,
but that point you felt was personal to you.
Well, I'm sure that he was looking at me because I was maybe 6 rows back, so he could see me, and he go, well, you know what I mean. Well, look at you, dear. And so he would absolutely pinpoint people. Well, you do when you're communicating, because you need to be you need to be given that energy back. It's called reciprocity.
It's very interesting because there are some presenters who do that naturally. They will communicate with an individual. Then what about the actual eyes, though? Because there are presenters who will head down, and what you see is this. And there are presenters who will be scanning the audience in front of them, maybe doing a W with their eyes.
That's a good technique. That's a perfectly good and usable technique. But absolutely, if you're looking down, they can't see these, and they are the window to your soul. 55% body language. If you're taking your eye contact away, that's a huge barrier to them seeing your sincerity. So definitely when you stand up, look out to the audience. Use the W. I tend to use a cross. I mean, in the old days I would, when I was getting used to doing this stuff and dodging glasses from the karaoke people. But for people who aren't used to it, I'd say avoid, one thing to avoid, certainly use eye contact, but avoid focusing on just one person. And then looking at them because they've smiled back at you, and then staying with them and giving the whole presentation to them. Because apart from them, they'll get freaked out, but also everybody else around them will think, well, don't I count?
Yeah.
I've seen people do this. They will focus on one person or only say one half of the audience.
You're drifting away. Come closer.
Again, I'm so sorry.
All right, now, what about, very briefly, body language? A lot of people come on the program and go, oh, yes, I've done NLP.
Yeah.
Because they always speak like that. They always speak like that.
Yeah.
I've done NLP. What about the actual using of the NLP techniques? We mustn't get carried away with this, but, using the NLP techniques, I've got nothing to hide. I've got, is there things that you can do with your body that will encourage people to connect with you?
Well, the first thing to say is that you will have, quite, as we said before, you've got a 50th of a second for your audience to decide whether you're one of 4 things: a friend, a foe, a possible sexual partner. I love your tie, by the way. Or, if you're none of those 3, the audience will just dismiss you. The default is to dismiss people who are not one of those first 3, a friend, a foe, or a possible sexual partner. Okay? So you want to be seen as a friend. And the best way for you to project the fact that you are no threat and that you are open is to have open body language. It is as simple as that. Do you remember what I said at the beginning about standing up straight? So if you're hunched, the fight or flight part of the brain will recognise that as you've got something to hide, that you're weak, that you don't have confidence. We are selling ourselves and the confidence in what we say. So it's very, very important that you show that confidence. And again, I mean, I talk about 45 minutes during the workshops that I give on how to stand up properly and correctly and how to do it well and understand the science behind how that's going to change the way you feel. There's a relatively new science called embodied cognition, which basically states the state of the human form will determine the state of the human mind. It's a big, big, big statement if you think about it, but what it really boils down to is what you do, you will feel. Okay? So, for example, if I sit like this, I'm sending out a completely different message and making myself feel completely different instantly from how I would feel if I'm sitting like this.
Paul, it's been a real insight. I hope you found it really interesting today. Paul, we always invite our guests to look straight down camera number one and to give the takeaways from today's show. It has been absolutely fascinating and very, very enjoyable as well, for that matter, and a great way to kick off this season. So if you don't mind, if you just look down camera number one, say who you are, where you're from, and the takeaways that our viewers should be thinking about when they're doing their next presentation.
Okay, my name's Paul Ryan from Improve On You, and the takeaways from today's programme are, if you're going to give a presentation, what you're probably going to find is that your nerves will kick in long before you get up on your feet. So something that we didn't discuss in the programme but I want you to use is a positive affirmation. Often we talk ourselves down. We will say, oh, God, I hate giving presentations. I'm rubbish at giving presentations. It's going to be terrible. And it's the old Henry Ford thing. If you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. The brain is an incredibly powerful tool. And what I want you to do is stop those negative thoughts in their tracks by thinking something positive. So I will always say to myself, for example, and we all get it, I was saying to Steve earlier, you know, coming on this show, I get nervous a little bit, but I'm using the tools and techniques that I want you to use now to put me in a really positive state of mind. So when I was waiting to come in, I used my positive affirmation, which was, I am sharp, polished and professional. I'm sharp, polished and professional. That stops all the negative monkey mind chatter in its tracks with a positive affirmation, a statement of something which is true. Okay, because I am pretty good at what I do, I am professional and I am focused. By telling myself that, that's what I'm going to feel. So before you get up to give your presentation, choose a new positive affirmation and repeat it to yourself. It must be in the now, not I will give a great presentation, because will is always in the future, but I give a strong, clear presentation. I enjoy the presentation that I'm giving. Those kind of things. Is that enough for you, Steve?
It's fantastic.
Could go on for hours.
I know he could, and he probably will. Listen, I hope you found today's programme a real insight into what you should be thinking about. Even if we just scratch the surface, which I think we have, there is so much to presentation techniques, but fundamentally, you know, have confidence in yourself and be positive when you're going out there, and make absolutely certain that, you know, do not get hunched. Be the big person that you truly are inside. Paul, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Hope you enjoyed today's show. It's been a cracking show, and it really has been an insight into presentation techniques. Don't forget, Paul's book is available, How to Network Your Way to Success. Is there a book actually coming out on straightforward presentation techniques from you?
So it's a series of three, I've decided. The first is how to network
during the show,
success.
I would
Not
imagine.
during the show. The next one is how to audition your way to success, because I want to help people who are going through the whole drama school auditions and getting up on their feet and auditioning for jobs. I want to help people, again, put aside all the fight or flight negative nervousness that can stop them being their best. And then the third book will be how to talk your way to success. And that will really be focusing and getting down to the nitty-gritty of how we feel when we give a presentation, how to improve it, and how to enhance the way we feel before, during and after.
Been a great show. Let me tell you what's coming up in the next couple of weeks. On next week's show, we've got Kate Cook, corporate wellness expert, on how to get back on track after the Christmas festivities. Now, if you're thinking it's all about recipes and cookery, it really isn't. Kate Cook, you may have seen her on our Christmas special. She is a great inspirational woman. Because what I love about her, I say to her, well, what should you be eating then to be feeling good when you're at work? She says, you should, as a suggestion, eat this. And then you'll say, well, what if I don't? She goes, it's up to you. And she's right. It's up to you. You make all the difference. Kate Cook, absolutely fantastic. On the show next week, corporate wellness expert on how to get back on track after the Christmas festivities. And coming up in the next few weeks, we've got Deborah Charles, CEO of Novacare. She's going to be on the show. Sophie Wilson from PHA Media, going to be talking about how PR can enhance your business. G. Fernando, entrepreneur and philanthropist, is going to be with us as well, talking about growing your business. Then we've got, is it Chris Nwonka? No. Chris Nwonka, 21-year-old entrepreneur and CEO of Varumo, and also the legendary Nigel Bottrell is going to be joining us as well. Hi, it's Nige. Go on. Enquanto, thank you very much indeed. Chris Enquanto, 21-year-old entrepreneur and CEO. Don't forget, if you'd like to advertise on the program, we'd love you to do that as well, in the same way as TubeBuddy are. And if you'd like to have your own corporate TV channel, well, why don't you get in touch with us? One last piece of advice, don't forget, watch out for the eyes. You do not want shifty eyes. You're allowed to have thinking eyes. I'm thinking, but you can't have shifty eyes. Shifty eyes are bad. If you're doing a presentation, don't have shifty eyes. Hey, listen, till we do it all again next week, thank you very much indeed for your company. It's been an absolute pleasure. Paul Ryan, once again, thank you very much for being on the show. I've loved it. Quickly, very quickly, do your Mr. Kenneth. Go on.
Kenneth. Frying tonight. Nostrils.
Thank you, and bye-bye.